The history of America is a long and fascinating journey. Friends, today we'll start that journey and find out how this continent was discovered and how life began here. This story will not only help you understand history better, but also make it easier to listen to and practice speaking. First, we need to know that America's history didn't begin only with European explorers. A long time ago, about 15,000 years back, Native American tribes lived here. They were hunters and gatherers who came from Asia to North America and settled down. These tribes lived in harmony with nature, grew crops, hunted animals, and passed down their cultural traditions. They had a unique lifestyle and knowledge shaped by their land and weather. But the story of America as we know it started later. In 1492, an Italian explorer named Christopher Columbus tried to find a sea route to Asia. They had a unique lifestyle and knowledge shaped by their land and weather. But the story of America as we know it started later. His goal was to find a new way to India and China, but instead, he landed in America. The Spanish king and queen, Ferdinand and Isabella, funded this journey. Columbus thought he had reached India, so he called the people he met Indians. However, Columbus wasn't the first European to see America. About 500 years earlier, Vikings led by Leif Erikson had come to Canada, but their settlements didn't last long. Still, Columbus gets credit for discovering America because his trip drew Europe's attention to this new continent. After Columbus, many European explorers came to America. Spain, France, England, and other countries started settling here and taking over resources. Spain mainly searched for gold and silver in South and Central America. England and France set up colonies in North America. These European settlements changed local life a lot. They brought new crops, animals, and technologies, but also diseases that caused a big drop in the Native American population. This led to complex and sometimes painful relationships between the colonies and Native Americans. In 1607, England established its first permanent colony, Jamestown, in Virginia. Early settlers faced harsh winters, diseases, and food shortages. Still, they didn't give up. Gradually, more colonies formed, and people from Europe came looking for a better life. In 1620, a group called the Pilgrims arrived on the Mayflower. They had left England to escape religious persecution and wanted freedom to worship. They landed in Massachusetts and celebrated the first Thanksgiving with help from local Native Americans. By the 1700s, America had become known as the Land of Opportunity. People came from Europe seeking freedom, land, and a better life. But control over America wasn't easy. European countries, especially England, France, and Spain, fought over it. By the 1700s, there were 13 colonies along America's east coast, divided into three main regions. 1. New England colonies, like Massachusetts and Connecticut, known for forests, fishing, and small farms. People often worked together as communities. 2. Middle colonies, like New York and Pennsylvania, called the breadbasket because they grew lots of wheat and grains. These colonies had a mix of cultures and religions. 3. Southern colonies, like Virginia and Georgia. These had large plantations growing tobacco, rice, and cotton. Most work was done by African slaves, which is a sad part of America's history. Life in the colonies wasn't easy. People worked hard to build homes, grow crops, and survive harsh winters. Families worked together, and kids helped out. Schools were few, and only some kids got to study. Still, the colonies were full of hope and opportunity. People came for religious freedom, land, and a fresh start. Some colonies, like Pennsylvania, became safe places for all religions. The colonies were under British rule. King George III made laws and taxed the colonists heavily. The colonists were upset because they had no say in the British government. Their slogan was, "No taxation without representation," meaning they would only pay taxes if they had a voice in making laws. The most famous protest was the Boston Tea Party in 1773. Colonists dressed as Native Americans boarded British ships and dumped tea into the sea to protest the tea tax, which they saw as unfair. This event symbolized growing tensions with Britain. By the mid-1700s, colonists were tired of British control. They wanted their own government and independence. War broke out in 1775, the American Revolution. George Washington led the colonial army, and Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, announced on July 4, 1776. It declared that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This was a huge step, as it meant the colonies were officially fighting against Britain. The war was long and tough. The British Army was big, well-trained, and well-armed. The American colonists were mostly farmers, shopkeepers, and ordinary people with little training. But they believed deeply in freedom. France helped America by sending soldiers, weapons, and ships. After years of fighting, America won a decisive victory at Yorktown in 1781. Britain officially recognized American independence in 1783. After independence, the new country's leaders created a constitution to set the rules for government. George Washington became the first president in 1789. This new nation was built on ideas of freedom, equality, and democracy, but these rights weren't truly equal for everyone. Slavery continued, and women and Native Americans had limited rights. The real fight for equality was still ahead. At first, America was small, with only 13 states along the East Coast. But Americans had big dreams. They wanted to move west and explore the vast lands of North America. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson bought the Louisiana Territory from France, doubling the country's size. From the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains, Jefferson sent explorers Lewis and Clark to map the new land. They were helped by a Native American woman named Sacagawea. They explored rivers, mountains, and plains and met many native tribes. Moving west was called Manifest Destiny, meaning it was America's destiny to expand across the continent. Families traveled in covered wagons, facing harsh weather, wild animals, and tough trails in search of new homes. But this expansion wasn't fair to everyone. Native American tribes were forced off their lands and put on reservations, forever changing their way of life. As America grew, so did its economy. Southern states built large plantations growing cotton, tobacco, and other crops. But this wealth came at a terrible cost. Plantation owners used African slaves who were forcibly taken from their homes. Slavery was a cruel system. Slaves were treated like property, worked long hours in harsh conditions, and had no rights or freedom. Families were torn apart. By the mid-1800s, America was divided into two parts. The North mostly opposed slavery. People there worked in factories or small farms and didn't depend on slave labor. The South's plantation economy relied completely on slavery. Plantation owners said their wealth depended on it. This division became so deep that people felt like they lived in two separate countries. But brave people fought against slavery, called abolitionists. Harriet Tubman, once a slave herself, became a leader of the Underground Railroad, a secret network that helped slaves escape to freedom in the North. Another key figure was Frederick Douglass, a former slave who became a powerful writer and speaker. His stories exposed the cruelty of slavery. Books like Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin showed people the harsh reality and sparked debate. By the 1860s, tensions between northern and southern states reached a breaking point. The South wanted to keep slavery, while the North wanted to end it. In 1861, Southern states left the Union and formed the Confederacy, starting the American Civil War. This war was about slavery, but also about whether America would stay united or split. Still, slavery was at the heart of the conflict. The Civil War lasted from 1861 to 1865 and was the toughest time in American history. Soldiers fought bloody battles, families were torn apart, and many cities were destroyed. But the war also brought hope for change. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all slaves in Confederate states free. This was a big step, but slavery officially ended only after the war. In 1865, the North won. Southern states rejoined the Union, and the 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery. This was a major victory, but the fight for true equality continued. Former slaves, now called African Americans, faced many challenges. They were legally free, but still struggled with racism, poverty, and unfair laws. After the war, the country entered Reconstruction, a tough rebuilding time. Many African Americans worked low-paying farm jobs or moved to northern cities for better chances. New laws were passed. The 14th Amendment gave everyone citizenship, and the 15th gave African American men the right to vote. For a while, some African Americans held political office and schools were set up. But not everyone supported these changes. Many white Southerners passed Jim Crow laws to keep African Americans separated and unequal. This period was full of struggles, but also laid the groundwork for the future civil rights movement. By the late 1800s, America started industrializing, known as the Industrial Revolution. Factories and machines changed how people worked and lived. Instead of farming, many moved to cities for jobs. Railroads spread across the country, and steel production grew. New inventions like Thomas Edison's electric light and Alexander Graham Bell's telephone transformed life. Railroads connected the nation, making travel and trade easier. These advances created new industries and jobs, but working conditions were often harsh. Long hours, low pay, and dangerous workplaces. Between the late 1800s and early 1900s, millions of immigrants came from Europe, Asia, and elsewhere. They entered through places like Ellis Island in New York, where they had health checks before being allowed in. These immigrants built railroads, worked in factories, and helped America grow. Though they faced discrimination and poverty, they believed in the American dream, that hard work could lead to success. America continued expanding. The government encouraged westward migration by giving free land through the Homestead Act. Settlers built farms, towns, and railroads, turning the West into a prosperous part of the country. But this expansion forced Native American tribes to lose their lands and live on reservations. There were many conflicts, like the Battle of Little Big Horn, where Native leaders like Sitting Bull fought the U.S. Army to protect their culture and way of life. By the early 1900s, America had become one of the world's biggest and richest countries. Its factory-made goods were sold worldwide, and its army was strong. The 1898 Spanish-American War was a turning point. America fought to support Cuba's independence and gained territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines, increasing its global power. Despite growing wealth, many workers struggled with poor conditions. Factory jobs were dangerous and long, and many children had to work instead of going to school. Labor unions formed to demand fair wages, safe workplaces, and shorter hours. Leaders like Eugene V. Debs spoke out for workers' rights. Tragedies like the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire helped push for stronger safety laws. As the economy grew, African Americans also pushed for equality. Booker T. Washington believed in education and hard work, while W.E.B. Du Bois demanded immediate rights. Their efforts laid the foundation for the later civil rights movement. World War I started in Europe in 1914. America stayed out at first, but joined in 1917 to help Britain and France. U.S. involvement showed its growing power. After the war ended in 1918, President Woodrow Wilson helped create the League of Nations to prevent future wars. The 1920s, called the Roaring Twenties, were a time of excitement and change. Jazz music grew popular, and women won the right to vote. Cities grew fast, but racism and segregation remained. Many African Americans moved north seeking better lives, but still faced discrimination. The Great Depression began in 1929 with the stock market crash, causing America's worst economic crisis. Many lost their savings, jobs, and homes. People stood in long lines for free food, and homelessness soared. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt became president and started the New Deal. This program created jobs, built roads, schools, and bridges, and provided social security for the elderly. Banks and farms got help too. FDR's radio talks, called fireside chats, gave people hope. By the 1930s, trouble was growing in Europe and Asia. Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany, and Japan became aggressive in Asia. America stayed out of World War II at first, but after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in 1941, America declared war on Japan, Germany, and their allies. The American people supported the war. Factories produced weapons, and women like Rosie the Riveter worked in jobs men left to join the military. In 1944, on D-Day, American and Allied forces pushed Germany back in Normandy. Germany surrendered in 1945, and America dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending the war. After World War II, America became one of the world's most powerful countries. Its economy was strong, and its military was advanced. The world divided into two: the U.S. and its democracy capitalist allies, and the Soviet Union, which believed in communism. This rivalry was called the Cold War, fought more with ideas, technology, and influence than weapons. In the space race, the U.S. and USSR competed to explore space. In 1969, America landed the first humans on the moon. The 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world close to nuclear war, but was resolved through diplomacy. The Berlin Wall divided Germany and became a Cold War symbol. Despite its strength, America still struggled with racism and inequality. In the 1950s and 60s, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. fought for African American rights. The 1954 Brown v. Board of Education decision ended school segregation. In 1955, Rosa Parks sparked the Montgomery bus boycott by refusing to give up her seat. In 1963, over 250,000 people gathered in Washington, where King gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Following this, laws like the Civil Rights Act, 1964, and Voting Rights Act, 1965, were passed. In the 1970s and 80s, America led in science, technology, and culture. Though the Vietnam War and economic problems continued, the country made great progress. So why is America one of the most powerful countries today? 1. Diversity. People from all over the world bring their talents and traditions, making America a rich and diverse culture. 2. Economy. America leads in business, education, and technology. 3. Military. The U.S. military is top-notch in equipment and training. 4. Culture. American music, movies, and fashion are popular worldwide. Modern America's story shows how struggle, innovation, and strong belief turned it into a global leader. Its diversity, culture, and power continue to influence the world today. America is one of the most powerful and influential countries in the world today. Its economy is huge and diverse, home to leading tech and innovation giants like Apple, Google, and Tesla. Their products and services are used worldwide and set examples of innovation. The U.S. military is highly advanced, with bases abroad and global alliances. The country works with others on issues like security, trade, and the environment. When it comes to culture, America has a massive impact. Hollywood movies and artists like Michael Jackson, Beyoncé, and Taylor Swift are famous worldwide. American fast food, hamburgers, pizza, fried chicken, is loved in many countries. America's strength isn't just in its military or economy, but also in its diversity. People from all over the world come here, bringing their languages, food, traditions, and ideas, making the U.S. a rich cultural mix. This diversity is celebrated through cultural and historical events, like Thanksgiving and the 4th of July. America is often called the land of opportunity, because anyone who works hard can make their dreams come true. That's what the American dream is all about. People come to America looking for a better life. They work hard and contribute to the country's progress. Immigrant stories inspire the world, showing that with effort and courage, success is possible. Still, despite its power, America faces issues like racism, income inequality, and expensive healthcare. Challenges with pollution, climate change, and natural resource conservation also persist. America is working to increase clean energy use, like solar and wind power. But political disagreements sometimes get in the way of environmental and economic policies. American scientists and engineers keep researching climate change, new diseases, and space exploration. The U.S. also helps countries facing disasters and conflicts, boosting its global influence and cooperation. America's spirit rests on 3 key things. First, freedom. People here can speak up, practice their religion, and dream big. Second, resilience. Even with many challenges, America always finds a way and solves problems. Third, innovation. The country's creativity and tech breakthroughs inspire the world. Modern American history shows how struggle, determination, and hard work make a nation strong. This country is built on hope and dreams. It has led the world in diversity, education, science, and culture. America's story is one of explorers, inventors, leaders, and everyday folks working hard and being brave. Young American leaders today focus on equality, protecting the environment, and advancing new technologies. New programs aim to improve social justice, education, and healthcare. The real power and success of America come from its people, who work hard every day, innovate, and push for a better future. History teaches us that America has always faced challenges head-on and found solutions. Immigrant stories, scientific innovation, social reforms, and global partnerships show why America leads the world. Its economic, cultural, and military strength boost its global influence. Opportunities in America are endless. Anyone, no matter where they come from or what background they have, can succeed with hard work and dedication. That's the core message of the American dream. The country's diversity, struggle, and spirit of innovation give it limitless possibilities. Today, American citizens, scientists, artists, and young leaders are shaping the country's future with their efforts. They're working on important issues like equality, technological progress, and environmental protection. America's future looks bright, depending entirely on its people's hard work, vision, and courage. America is a place where dreams can come true. Through hard work, bravery, and hope, the country keeps reaching new heights. Its story is one of discovery and innovation from past to present. The story of courage, determination, and the American dream. America's future depends on the ongoing efforts and contributions of its people, who keep it growing and strong.